The one, the only, the classic Halloween.
Halloween night. A small American town. 15 years ago.
Michael?
Halloween.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil. I think he'll come back.
Exploring uncharted territory.
Totally charted.
Just talk.
Sure. The only reason she babysits is to have
Halloween.
Okay, Linda.
Come on out. Halloween. The night he came home.
They're coming to get you. They're coming for you, Barbara. They're coming to get you.
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of They're Coming to Get You. I'm one of your hosts, Brent Terhune, joined by
Gavin Eddings. What's going on, Brent? We're doing it. We're making it happen.
Yeah, we if you're unfamiliar, Gavin and I have a long-standing friendship and relationship.
I was going to say rivalry and feud.
That's true. I am your shape to your Dr. Loomis. You've been, before we turn the mics on, you've been warning anybody who will listen that bad things are about to happen.
I watched him, the blackest eyes.
7 Twinkies or 6 Twinkies. But welcome to They're Coming to Get You. This is Gavin has been on my podcast, The Field Trip with Brent Terhune, a bunch, and we've been friends, and like we always talk horror, and we started, and I texted you like a month ago. I said, do you want to just do a horror movie podcast, because it always comes back to horror.
Yeah,
the Field Trip is not a horror based, like if you're a horror fan, obviously you are listening to this. It's hard to talk about horror in May or June. Nobody cares. People look at you weird. So like, Gavin and I, let's just share our love of horror movies.
Yeah, this is going to be terrible for search engine optimization. Like, horror movies in July. What's going on?
I know.
Like, nobody's searching for Halloween. We're doing this at a really bad time. We're actually really setting ourselves up for failure, which I am prone to. So this is going to be great. Yeah, but I've been on your podcast, The Field Trip, a bunch, promoting my horror movie YouTube channel, Gavin Loves Horror. And some people were suggesting, like, why don't you guys just do a podcast together? You guys have good chemistry. We like hearing you together. And I said, hey, make me a co-host of the field trip. And you said, no, that'll cut into my money. And I was like, okay.
I would only make $1 as opposed to $2, Gavin.
I know you gotta keep that money coming. But when you asked me to do this, I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I'm not doing anything else with my life right now. So yeah, they're coming to get you. That is the podcast name. That's what we are. It's a very threatening title. It's a very threatening title.
I don't remember the other titles, but I very strongly wanted it to be called the Podcastining. But that was so one of us didn't like it, and I won't say which one. But yeah, so I've committed. I told you, Gavin, we're gonna do 10 episodes.
We've committed to a 10 episode run, and then we'll see if we get picked up for a second season
or burnt out by the end of it.
But I think we're going to try to do a bi-weekly release schedule. That way we're not burning ourselves out. I know you already have a bunch of podcasts. You've got the field trip. You've got the cafeteria with Johnny LaQuasto and Ryan Niemiller. And I work a regular full-time job.
And comedy and
comedy. Yeah.
We're all busy.
We're all busy. And unless you have like a podcast empire, like you got to find time when you can make time.
Yeah. And then something's got to give.
Yeah, it'll be this podcast. So don't get used to it.
And if you're listening somehow, not knowing who Gavin and I are, both of us are stand-up comedians, podcasters, obviously lovers of horror. So
yes, absolutely.
So we won't discuss what other episodes we have coming, but we started off with a heavy hitter, Gavin.
Yes, pretty much the most iconic horror movie that you can do, which is a 1978 Halloween, the John Carpenter classic. And I was amazed. I looked it up. We are the first podcast ever to talk about Halloween 1978.
It's crazy.
I can't believe nobody else is talking about this. Really a hidden gem. Not a lot of people talk about 1978 Halloween. I know I've certainly never done episodes of podcasts on this subject. I know you've never done it either. So this is really new territory for all of us.
Neither one of us have recorded separate episodes about this. So that's fantastic.
And the kind of fun facts that we're going to be sharing about Halloween 1978. I don't know if you knew this. The mask of the Shape was actually a William Shatner Star Trek mask that they actually modified. So
that's crazy.
Real insider information right there that nobody's ever mentioned before.
Well, and this is our first episode, so we will find our groove. But I guess, Gavin, like we both love this movie. I think you do, at least. I do.
I know. Go ahead.
What do we initial thoughts of Halloween?
I mean, really kicked off the slasher genre. It wasn't the first slasher movie. Psycho really kicked off the whole genre, and then Texas Chainsaw Massacre really kind of elevated it. But when you think of slasher, you think of like the big three icons. You think of Michael Myers, you think of Jason Voorhees, you think of Freddy Krueger. But Michael Myers really kicked things off with the man in the mask killing the teenagers. And that was John Carpenter's entire inspiration for it. Like it was called like the Babysitter Murders. And then he's like, what if we just had this guy, escape mental patient, kill some babysitters? What could be scarier than that? And we'll make a bunch of money. And they did.
And I think we both care more for this franchise than John Carpenter does.
Yeah.
If you ever listen to an interview with him.
He does have this great bit, though, where he goes, I don't care if the Halloween movies are good or bad, but every time they announce a new one, I reach my hand out and money appears.
I love it. Like if that was like such a funny statement, I would hate that. But I love it because it is so funny. You know?
Yeah, I mean, if I created something like that's the dream for any kind of actor or comedian, is to just do one thing that you're known for forever, that you can just coast on. Jamie Kennedy can do conventions as Randy from Scream until he dies. Like he did that thing in 1996 and he can just coast on that forever. It just doesn't matter what else he's done. I paid the $30 to meet him and to give to sign my poster. And John Carpenter made this thing almost 50 years ago, and he's like, okay, guess I'll do that forever.
Yeah, and he made The Thing. He made a lot of movies, but man, yeah, I guess this is like I would say now this is the movie I've seen the most out of all movies is Halloween.
Out of like any movie, just
yeah.
just it's just such a classic. I know that I have seen it at least 20 to 25 times at this point, and that's not even counting during AMC Fear Fest when they just play it in a rotation where you're like, oh, I'm watching from 3/4 of the way in, and then it's going to recycle, and then you're just watching it like Pulp Fiction in different chunks.
Well, and forever, this I never had I was not alive between 1978 and I think 81 of like there was a moment where Michael Myers wasn't the brother of Laurie Strode. That's always been to me their relationship.
Yeah,
but I forget because I wasn't alive that didn't even exist.
Yeah, and we're just so ingrained in these franchises because we grew up well past their prime after they'd already had like I remember in 1995 when Curse of Michael Myers came out, I was like, what's this new movie? And my dad's like, no, there's like 20 of those.
Yeah.
This is not a new franchise, Gavin. But we had already had all the sequels that have been out for a decade at that point. So yeah, Laurie Strode has always been Michael Myers' sister, and that's kind of the world we grew up in. But in this original movie, there's none of that. He's just a guy.
And I think that's the big appeal to this movie is that he escaped, but he's just following Laurie because she just happened to be the lady that walked on his porch. And I think that's the beauty and the scary part of this movie is that there's no real reason why he does any of this. And then once you continue, you paint more into that background. I don't hate it, but I think it's the most scary when it's that stranger's effect of because you were home,
Yeah, it taught me though that you have to call before you go on somebody's porch, because if you don't, this dude's gonna follow you all day. He follows her to school. He's creeping outside of bushes. He's standing in the sheets. He's just like, hey, you came on my porch.
Can you imagine a modern day when Michael Myers has got the Ring camera? Even if he's not home, you're gonna die. He'll find you.
I was thinking that, like, could you imagine if you just check your Ring camera? It's like, who is this girl on my porch? He's getting updates on his app. He's like, hey, what's going on?
He answers, but all you just hear is breathing through the Ring, which is what you hear when I answer as well.
but for different reasons.
Hello, yeah, just. But yeah, that's it's what a simple premise as well. Like, I love movies where it's like so convoluted and everything, but this is just a guy who follows babysitters.
Yeah,
and
we don't even know they have to. He doesn't even know they're babysitters. He just happens to follow this girl. I mean, if he's into babysitters, this is incredible for him. But it's just a big coincidence.
Yeah, I don't even know where you want to start, but I mean, I guess we could start at the beginning of the movie. And I will say the movie I've seen the most, but also I have a recurring dream, Gavin, of I would say nightmare of Michael Myers following me in dreams.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he's like your go-to who, like, whenever somebody attacks you in a dream, it's always Michael Myers.
Yeah, and it's not even, he never gets me, but it's kind of it's an It Follows. He's always just behind and I can't get away. But I have like a couple reoccurring, not dreams, but themes of dreams. One is Michael Myers and the other is snakes.
And Michael Myers. And
the one I don't go and I'm not obsessed with and have pictures behind me is snakes, believe it or not. And one time I had a funny dream, about the only funny dream I've ever had. I'm like running from Michael Myers, and for some reason Alex Trebek is in my dream, and he says, "You're in jeopardy." And that sounds like I made that up, but I swear that was. And even in my dream, I was like, "That's funny." I don't know, like I've never had a laugh in my dream before, but thanks to Michael Myers and Alex Trebek.
That's a good that's a good dream. I feel like Alex Trebek, God rest his soul, but I feel like he should tell people, like, you're in jeopardy. Like, if I'm ever in a crisis, I'd like him to be there to let me know and just be very on the nose about it. Are you afraid that in your dream where Michael Myers is chasing you, are you afraid you're going to unmask him and then underneath is just more snakes? Like, how is this?
It's kind of a Medusa with a mask on. But yeah, a recurring dream, and I rewatched it for this podcast. I didn't have to, but I did.
You can just, I think I would probably just quote it all the way through at this point, because I've seen it so many times, and you have too.
Yeah. Well, and it was released 1978, and I didn't have time to look up my notes that I've taken for this movie again, but I think it was Kansas City was the premiere, and it was made for like $300,000. For the longest time, it was one of the highest, or like the highest grossing independent film, I think, until Blair Witch, and then probably Paranormal Activity. But it, like, small budget, and then there are things in this movie that you can tell it's a small budget, like movie mistakes. I do love that aspect of movies, of like, where you're like, oh, you can see the shadow of of somebody in there. You know, I love that aspect of movies.
There's a boom mic here. I can see everything. Have you seen Halloween in the theaters?
No.
You've never seen it in the theater?
Mm-mm.
They showed it at one of our local second run houses back in, I think, 2019, 2020. I think it was 2019, actually. It's right before the pandemic. And it was cool being able to see it in person. What is our seeing it in theaters? I didn't watch it in person. I watched the stage adaptation of Halloween. But seeing it in theaters, one thing is, it is super bright. It is a lot brighter seeing it in a theater, especially those early scenes during the day on Halloween when they're like like, God damn, this is really this is so bright
in Pasadena. And it, like, I never thought of any of this, but then you watch enough or hear enough podcasts and stuff, like Pasadena, the grass is green, and then anywhere else you're like October, it should be brown. It's a depressing brown, but you know.
What they did was, because they shot it in Pasadena in the summer so they can make the Halloween release, and they had bags of leaves that they would just like sprinkle around, and then when the scene was over, they'd be like, all right, pick the leaves up, we got to go to our next. So they're just transporting a bag of leaves from scene to scene because they're shooting in beautiful California.
And if you didn't know it was a movie, that's just the craziest behavior to see from afar. Dump the leaves out, scatter them, rake them back up like some kind of Linus with a blanket. Just, I gotta get my leaves.
But unless you're looking for it, it does give that feeling of a small town in Illinois around Halloween. I mean, if you look close, the grass is beautiful for that time of year. But it does have that very claustrophobic small time feeling to it.
And we open up. I think we discussed this on an episode of the Field Trip, but one of the best opening scenes is the murder of Judith Myers, and we get the shot from the outside, and then Michael comes in, and that was done in 2 takes. There's an edit, it looks like one, but in that shot when he's walking through the house, I think it was I almost said the Astroglide camera, but that is not
the Astroglide camera, which was mainly used in pornography. They borrowed they borrowed for this, and it just really slid through the set, just really in and out. Just
for the purposes of this podcast, we're going to call it the Astroglide camera. But they couldn't shoot it long enough, or there wasn't enough film in the camera, so they had an edit. And when Michael puts the clown mask on, that's where the edit is.
And so if you're the kind of person that it's all one take, it's not, it's 2 takes.
Lies.
Lies. You were lied to, but it is done seamlessly.
Like, unless I listened to a thing where somebody said that to me and then I repeated it like I'm an expert. Unless somebody told me that, I wouldn't know.
But I always have trouble finding out where the cuts are when there's these long takes in movies. I was like, has this been 1 take the whole time? Has this been? Then you realize that the movie is like 30 minutes, and you're like, no, there's no way it's in 1 take. This is way too much time.
I do that with regular movies where they jump from one location to the other. I'm like, is this 1 take? This Astroglide is great camera.
I like the way when you were talking about the Astroglide, you're like, yeah, they couldn't shoot it very long. It was kind of a hard shot. I was like, stop it.
And that was not, those weren't planned puns. Those,
I know. This is just the kind of organic jizz humor that you will get from this horror movie podcast we're doing.
They had about the shortest jizz scene in history with the sex scene at the beginning. Like they're just up, and then from the time Michael like walks from the kitchen to the steps, and then he's like, I'm out of here. And she doesn't have a problem with it. She's like, all right, bye. Whatever. Like usually it'd be like, I can't believe you're leaving already, or so, like. Yeah,
he's just very quick. He got in there, he got out. He's like, I got stuff to do. It's the night before. it's Halloween night. I got candy to get. Yeah, or something. But yeah, he's just like, all right, well, I'm gonna head out, I guess.
I'm gonna head out. We get I don't remember how many boobs are in this movie. I think we get Judith and we get PJ Souls later in the movie.
So if we're doing boob count, 4 titties are in this film.
That's how I decide whether a film is good or not, by if it has the female breast in it. And then probably one of the scariest scenes in the movie is Loomis and the nurse pull up, and the patients are just wandering out in the rain in 1978.
Yeah, and the scene where he just smacks the hand on the glass, and I always like that scene because you can kind of tell there's like a wrench or something in his hand breaking the glass.
Yeah.
And then just the way the glass shatters, you're like, that's not how glass works. But I also love that sound effect when he jumps over in the back of the car.
Yeah, like I wrote this in my notes, and that like this could, I've not seen all the movies, believe it or not, but this,
really?
Like if somebody said this was the greatest score to a film, I couldn't disagree with you.
It's a very good score, and it's more impressive that John Carpenter did so much with so little. He composed all the music himself. He created the iconic theme, and the movie, they did screenings before the score was completed, and it was very boring. If you try to watch Halloween without the score, it's just kind of like people shuffling about and just a guy wandering. But you have to add that iconic theme to really make it scary and build the tension.
And it's so like that soundtrack has been not copied, but there's been a renaissance of like 80s sound with Stranger Things and It Follows. It's like there's been a renaissance of people want that synthesized soundtrack.
It's also in your recurring dream. That theme is also playing. He's just
That's true. I wish I don't know. Do you have music in your dreams?
Sometimes. I think so.
That's a question for the listeners. Do you have music in your dream? Because I don't remember if I ever have or not.
That's a really deep question. That's like that's like a sexy question you could ask a woman on a date. Like, do you have music in your dreams?
Because I would like to put some in the dreams.
Oh, what's funny about the Halloween theme is it was my mom's ringtone forever. Like whenever she'd get a new phone, like I remember she had a Motorola Razr and be like bum, 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 bum. Just the middiest version, just the shittiest 8-bit sounding. And now she still has it online. I don't know if she still has it, but she kept it for a while. She's like, it was always weird when it would go off at church. And she's like, oh, I'm just so edgy. I'm just so
sorry. Is your mom even a horror fan?
Kind of, but not as much as we are. But she does like she always grew up watching and enjoying like the Addams Family and things like that. But yeah, she likes the Halloween theme because it made her real edgy. My mom is almost 70, by the way. But she's like, all the church girls will know how cool I am.
Well, and that was kind of not my first horror movie I ever saw, but being exposed to AMC Fear Fest. It was like before everything was readily available all the time. You just remember October rolling around and you're like, I'm gonna watch this with so many commercials.
It's gonna have so much stuff cut out. I probably now, if I watched Halloween on Blu-ray right now, I could tell you where the commercial breaks were.
Yeah,
in there. The first Halloween movie I ever saw actually was Halloween 2. Because they showed it on USA on like a Sunday afternoon.
Up all night.
So yeah, that was the first one I ever watched, and then I watched them in like reverse order, almost like a Star Wars type thing, where you watch 4, 5, and 6, then you go back and watch 1, 2, and 3, and then you're very confused because 3 has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, it's one of those, like I said, where I'm like, Michael's always been Laurie's brother for some reason. And that scene where they pull up to Smith's Grove and the patient's just wondering. I've kind of rewatched the movie for this podcast with analytical eyes, and the nurse says something to the effect of, "Do they usually let them wander out like that, or what?" It's like, no, it's raining at night. Like,
you listen. My dad worked at the state hospital for a long time. He couldn't tell me enough times when it's raining outside in the middle of the night. He's like, let them out.
Yeah.
You just gotta let them roam.
Let's go water the crazies.
That was also gonna be the podcast title, is Water the Crazies.
Water the Crazies. And it was gonna be about the film The Crazies.
And we would drink a lot of water while discussing the movie.
I have a list of great shots because we could go beat by beat, but I don't know that everybody wants that from this.
They're like, we've seen it. I never know how to do when talking about certain movies on a podcast. I never know how to break it down.
Yeah.
It's like, do you want scene for scene? So at 5 minutes and 39 seconds, there's this great shot. There's a lens flare.
Back and to the left. Well, how do you feel about Loomis? He's my favorite character in the movie. And just couldn't be more over the top and correct, you know.
He's got that righteous. He's got that righteous correctness where he's like, "I told you." Everybody's like, did he have any other patients? That's what I always wondered. Like, he spends a lot of time on Michael Myers. I've always been curious, like, if you're another patient of Loomis, just trying to get a hold of him. It's gotta be really hard. They're like,
he's with Michael again.
Dr. Loomis, I was really having a hard time. I just really need. And he's like, no, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. And you're like,
what a great monologue of. It's so over the top. He'll just be like, it's gone. The evil is gone from here. He doesn't even call him a he, you know. But like, even though it's so kind of campy and over the top, I still love it. I'll just pull up that monologue on YouTube of I met him 15 years ago, like that. It's so over the top, but I love it, you know.
I like to imagine that monologue is your foreplay. So whenever your wife hears it, she's like, "Oh no, I'm about to put out."
It's like a slowly I turn. She knows once I start reciting that, you can't stop me.
Once I start talking about the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, you know it's coming. You know.
And it's always been a point of contention with people, but you know, Michael takes off in the car and they explain it away with Loomis is like, well, somebody must have been giving him lessons. But that is if you're going to have a flaw with the movie, but to me they explain it away, but it's like, this dude's not said a word for 15 years, but somehow drives. But I'm also like, little kids drive all the time. Yeah. There's a news story all the time of, I took my dad's keys to go get M&Ms or whatever, you know, like it's not like if you just didn't know how to drive and you saw somebody drive like 10 times, you'd be like, I could probably figure this out. You know?
I do think that there should have been a deleted scene where somebody is showing him how to drive and just Michael
10 and
Myers,
2, Michael.
Just Michael Myers trying to parallel park and be like, that's what caused this. He's like, I gotta kill some people because I cannot get within the lines. I'm near a hydrant.
Well, the movie doesn't work at all if he can't drive, you know, like he can't have like a chauffeur or like an Igor to his Dr. Frankenstein, you know.
He could have had a bike. That'd have been pretty fun. Just here comes Mike on his Schwinn.
There is a guy on, you know, he's probably on everything, but I know him from Facebook, and I don't know if he's like the Decatur Michael Myers, but it's a guy that just walks around in Michael Myers costume. And like one of him is just on a bike staring at people. Like, but yeah, just him I imagine like on a beach cruiser, knife in the basket, you know? Yeah. So again, people will be like, oh, he drove. I don't care, man. Like he got shot 6 times, even though he says
I
that
shot him 6 times.
Yeah, it's at a certain point. This movie's not so far-fetched that I can't suspend my disbelief for that, you know.
And it's not like he drives so well. He's kind of a shitty driver. Like he goes real slow, he brakes real hard. It's not like he burns out when he's like, "See you, Loomis."
Yeah,
he drifts around the corner. It's like, time to kill a babysitter.
I also like that he keeps the car from Smith's Grove the whole movie. When he killed this tow truck driver to get the coveralls, and he could have just taken that guy's truck. And then nobody would have known that he was in Haddonfield. But he's like, no, I like a station wagon.
He's like, I gotta advertise for my home. I gotta represent.
I do, like, nobody ever remembers, like they do, but like they don't count it in the deaths. But he kills the tow truck driver, and when they pan over in that like field area, that's clearly Freddie Mercury. Like, next time you watch the movie, it's Freddie Mercury laying there.
It's just really convenient that Michael Myers killed somebody his exact size. Like, it's a good fit on them coveralls,
and does for several movies.
He's like, if you wear those coveralls, don't wear them on the day of Halloween, because Michael Myers will hunt you down. He will find you, and that became a theme in like the sequels a lot, where every Halloween is like, gotta find my coveralls, gotta steal a car, and then
get the mask that somehow, like, they're still selling the serial killer mask. Like, that'd be crazy if somebody, whatever mask became popular, like if the Scream mask wasn't from the movie Scream, but there was a real killer, it'd be so much in poor taste to keep selling that mask, right? Like,
yeah, and that, I think in the later Halloween movies, like, they make it a whole ordeal, like, this is the night Michael comes home, but again, those are the sequels, and this is the superior original. How do you
I was sorry that, you know, like, if this were a real town, there'd be so much murderabilia, and you'd be able to go on the kill tour. Like, somebody would be driving a hearse around with a mic strapped and like and giving the tour, like, no doubt.
And this is where Dr. Loomis shot him 6 times. And if you see that railing, his body tumbled over, and then when he looked down, he was gone. The evil had gone from here.
And the homeowner's like, well, you people just leave us alone.
And now if you're in the splash zone, like,
be sure to pick up a t-shirt on the way out. But what were you going to say?
I can't remember now.
Cool. I'm glad I broke that up for you.
I know. Just it was a really good thought process, but it is now. Oh, that's good. I know what I was going to say. How do you feel about the child actors in this? Because sometimes child actors can make or break a movie, and this, I think Halloween has some pretty good child actors in it. Yeah,
there's certain. I think for the most part, these guys do a good job, and even a better job in Halloween 4 and 5 with what's her face,
Danielle Harris.
Yeah, she does a terrific job. But there are certain movies where I'm like, please just get this kid off the screen. Like, and I again, it's, if you're a good child actor, that's terrific. But if you're a bad one, you're real bad.
We know.
Yeah,
and we can all tell. And your parents are saying you're doing a great job, but when those reviews come out, they're gonna tell you that they hate you.
Yeah, it's just, you want to like poke your own eyes out, or you want to unravel a wire hanger and poke it in your separate eye holes in your mask.
I do think the kids that play, is it Jamie Wallace and Tommy Doyle?
It's Lindsay Wallace and Tommy Doyle.
Wallace. Yeah, I think the kids that play them were fine. Like, they're annoying enough, and they do too many activities though. Laurie's got too many activities for them to do. They've got to carve pumpkins, which, why are you carving pumpkins on Halloween?
I'm like, that's 2 weeks out, and it should almost be rotten by the time people get to your house.
We're gonna start a movie, then we're gonna read comic books, then we're gonna read popcorn. It's like, calm down, okay? You gotta chill.
And also, why aren't these kids trick-or-treating?
Yeah.
That's the age when you go trick-or-treating.
And there's no trick-or-treaters on the block at all. It's just the most deserted street where he can attack.
I don't know. That could just be a budget thing.
Yeah, and I have a really bad time of actually telling what time it is in the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, what? People aren't answering their door. Clearly it's after midnight or 1 a.m. But then I'm like, what if it's just like 7:30?
Yeah.
And they're like, no solicitations. Like,
we
no.
turn in early. I was watching the movie and producer wife was in the room, and like Lori comes home after school and these kids are already trick-or-treating in the daylight. And the weird thing about my wife is she was from a town that never had trick-or-treating. They had Hallelujah Night, which is it's a joke in my stand-up, but that's true. And you could go trunk-or-treating in the parking lot. So she's never been trick-or-treating before, and she's like, do people really go out that early? I'm like, I mean, maybe sometime. I would wait till closer to dark, because that was the thing, is you had to do it when it was dark. But nowadays I could totally see people trick-or-treating in the day. But back in 1978, that seemed a little bit early.
Yeah, I remember I live in a neighborhood where we have a lot of trick-or-treaters, and I think they start, well, the past couple Halloweens have been on the weekend, and one was a pandemic. But normally our trick-or-treaters usually start about like 2:30, between 2:30 and 4, and then goes till about probably 7:30 when it gets real dark out. But yeah, so I feel like most people trick-or-treat more towards the day now.
Mm-hmm.
But Hallelujah Nights, I've been to many trunk-or-treats. I've been to hell houses. I have been
She's pregnant from premarital sex.
At one time, she kissed a boy and now she's got AIDS. Like, what? That's a real hell house thing I went through.
Yeah.
Just the Midwest is it's a terrible place.
I would disagree. I think that stuff's lovely. But back to, I think the kids do a great job. I love the scene when Tommy's getting bullied and just falls over on a full pumpkin and breaks it. Like,
well, that's what he gets for not carving a pumpkin already. Like, why? Also, why do you bring the pumpkin to school?
And if you look closely, one of those bullies was actually Billy Corben from the Smashing Pumpkins.
And he's like, I think there's something here. I
wanna go for a ride. But I do love this, so that the kid that runs away after bullying runs into Michael. One of my favorite things about this movie, and in movies like it, I love the creeping. I love just him being in the background, and it makes it creepier that he lingers for a while. Like, it's not like a straight direct kill. Like, you get it in this movie, you get it in Halloween 2, you get it in the Halloween 5, which people will not like, but I'm like, man, that's got some great creeping. And the Rob Zombie one, like, I just love in the background. Like when you rewatch Halloween, I'm not finding new Michaels in the background, but I'm always scanning it because he could be on any street at any time. Yeah, and it's a Where's Waldo of a horror movie,
And I think what's cool about the original Halloween is that Michael Myers is just a regular dude size. In like Rob Zombie's Halloween, you notice the 6'7" Tyler Mane, just like, oh, that's a dude. I think we recognize him, but he's just like a regular sized guy.
And he's skinny, like Michael Myers was 21. He's just he's normal. And that's the thing, is like, it's a normal thing in a normal town like that. The big part of this movie is why it's so scary. It's a home invasion movie.
Yeah.
And like,
the kills aren't particularly brutal, but they're memorable.
And it's also like, if you can't be safe at home, then where can you be safe at?
Mm-hmm.
Because like with a movie that's paranormal or whatever, you got like, okay, maybe the devil possesses people, maybe he doesn't. But I'm like, oh, I know it's somebody that had their house broken into. That's a real thing that happens,
One of my favorite moments, it's a very subtle moment in Halloween, and it shows that Michael Myers is just a man. He's just a regular dude. Is that when he's stalking outside Annie's house and he knocks the plant over because he's just a dipshit. He's like, oh god, oh damn it, oh better scurry.
Yeah.
And I like to think that also maybe he's just vindictive against the ficus. He's like, I'll show you.
And also, he's in a full mask, like he's breathing in his own gross. It's full of moisture, and you like eye holes. Like you don't have a lot, but this dude handles it for some reason, you know.
When he gets unmasked by Lori and you see his face for a second, I'm surprised it wasn't like the scene in South Park when Cartman takes off the Osimo head, where it's just like his hair is matted down. Yeah. He's like, I've been in this thing for days.
Yeah. And I like, this is my favorite movie, and you could find faults with anything, and I have chosen to do that. But like, I that's the thing that I don't like about this movie. When you could see his face briefly, I'm a guy that's like, don't show me at all. I don't need to see it.
I've met the actor who played him. His name's
Tony Moran.
Tony Moran, who apparently talks shit about Halloween and says it's like the worst thing ever. And he's just,
but he'll sign your Funko Pop.
He'll sign your Funko Pop, and and he was actually incredibly nice when I met him.
Yeah.
So I did a video on my YouTube channel about the whole controversy where he talks like crap about the Halloween franchise and thinks it's the dumbest thing ever. I was like, hey, you were so nice.
Yeah,
you were so nice, and you like took time to sign my poster and everything. And I was like, why do you hate us? But you like my $40.
Yeah, of course. It's $40. That's so weird how like we all want to believe the actors and the things that we liked being there, and also are fans of things. And it's always disappointing when somebody will be like, it was just another role to me, mate. Like you know, in whatever actor I'm talking about. But it's always like, I'm like,
I assume Michael Caine.
When well, Michael Caine, famous, what is it, Jaws 4 whatever?
Yeah, Jaws for the Revenge. I assume the movie is rubbish, but I have seen the house it built, and I do
never
quite
saw
like
the
it.
movie. Yeah, but I saw the house it built. Again, that's a John Carpenterism that I can respect.
Yeah,
I don't care, I built the house, you know. But I do, like, we all want to believe that the actors that we like to be in there. Like when you hear like Betsy Palmer talk about Friday the 13th, and she's like, I thought the script was rubbish. I'm like, oh, come on. I want you to like being there, you know?
I read a book recently about behind the scenes retrospective of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is my favorite show of all time. And it's like, they all loved each other, right? It's like Nicholas Brendan hated David Boreanaz. Joss Whedon abused everybody. And it's like, no.
And then, but maybe if like they hated it, then you're like, oh, they really are good actor. Because
they made me think how good friends they were.
Yeah. Back to Michael lurking outside Annie's house. I've watched it 1,000 times, but Michael just picks up a German Shepherd, a big ass dog. You know how strong you got to be to pick up a German Shepherd by the neck and then just choke it. It's like you find the humor in this movie when you see it so many times. Like he choked a German Shepherd. He's carrying around a tombstone. Like that's super heavy. And then like the ghost Bob scene where, you know, he kills Bob, great kill, but also like he comes back in the room. He's dressed as Michael Myers with the mask. Then he puts a sheet on, cuts eye holes for that, and then wears another man's glasses on top of that and somehow can find his way upstairs. Like like that's, if you think about it, it becomes so like far-fetched. You're like, this guy's wearing 2 masks and another guy's glasses.
What's his end game? He's like, I'm gonna get a hand job. Like, what is it? Be like, Bob, why are you wearing coveralls under your ghost sheet?
Yeah, you're wearing a mask under a mask, and then it turns out it was John Knotts under.
It is when you put it like that. What is his end game? Like, Michael Myers is pretty no nonsense for the most part. Then he's like doing cosplay. Like,
yeah, like in later movies, he'll carve up a pumpkin, and Michael Myers likes to dress the scene for a kill, you know, which it's like, like he's got the Linda shoved in a cabinet and then Bob dangling from what I assume was a closet. Like it's the trick or treat. It's the trick part of trick or treating.
That's a lot of rigging to like have these spring-loaded bodies just popping out everywhere.
Yeah, he walks in and he's an artist in the room. He's like, all right, what can I do? I'm gonna hang him from the closet right here, you know.
Why is he Irish? Oi, here's what we're gonna do.
Oi, because he's an artist. Another scene that I find scary, and it's not for like a monster in the scene, but Lori running from the house after finding all the dead people, and she's like, please God, somebody help me, and nobody gives a shit. Like, that is terrifying when you're like, please help, and then nobody does. You're in the residential neighborhood and nobody does anything.
There's no Nextdoor app, there's no Facebook alerts yet. So I mean, honestly, if somebody starts streaming in my neighborhood, like somebody, I'll be like, nah, that seems like you've got your own stuff to sort out.
Yeah, like nowadays, if somebody's like, please help, I'm like, I want to go the opposite way because I don't want any of that trouble, you know.
You've got your own stuff going on. I think we're good. I think I hope you get it sorted out though.
And then one of my favorite things in Halloween 2, when, you know, Loomis is out front and he's like, call the cops, and the guy's like, we've been trick-or-treated to death, and he's like, you don't know what death is. It's so campy, but I'm like, oh God, I love this. How do we talked about Loomis. How do you feel about Lori?
I think she is the every girl.
Mm-hmm.
She's just trying to get Ben Tramer to ask her to a dance. She's just worried about boys. She's just trying to have a good time. She has 1,000 babysitting jobs. Apparently, she has a real stranglehold on this town.
I run Haddonfield. Nobody babysits without paying up to me.
Pay your tribute. Pay your tribute. I'm a made woman. I get the best kids. Bedtime by 9. They respect me. They respect me.
Like she cares about the kids and like clearly is engaged with you know, with their activities, and like, I mean, she like you said, she's just an every woman type person, and then really portrays fear. Like, a thing I read about this a while ago is the movie was shot out of sequence, so Carpenter was like, they had a system of like, how scared do I need you to be in this, and he'd be like, give me a level 5 scare, like you're level 5 scared, you know. So, and I've used it in stuff that I've shot since then, of like, if we're shooting out of sequence, I need you to be a level 10 this, you know. I just think that's a great simple system.
Mm-hmm. And that's really cool. What I like about Lori also is that she does try to fight back. She's always trying to fight back, whether she's stabbed in the neck with like a knitting needle,
Mm-hmm.
or unraveling a coat hanger to poke him in his eye and then stabbing him. So she tries to fight back. Like, she's by no means helpless.
Yeah, and it's, you know, to stab a dude in the, just like when you think about getting stabbed in the neck by a knitting needle, my God, like that's a needle this long, like it's just crazy.
A bad time. I don't want that. I don't want to get stabbed in the neck with a needle. And then but he brushes it off. A lot of poking in Michael Myers.
And also to be that accurate, of be able to unfold a wire hanger and get it in the eye hole.
Especially when, you know, he's breathing heavy. He's real moist under that mask. Well, he's so when he kills Annie, he kills her in the car.
Yeah, there's like a wheezing going on.
he's wheezing, and then also it's just so foggy. He's just really hot boxing himself in that car.
Well, and watching that scene again when she gets the butter on her shirt and has to go wash it in the garage, or what, she's stuck in the window. And today that would be a different scene if you go to a certain website. She's stuck in the window. That they'd have to bring in the Astroglide camera, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, see, Michael Myers would no longer be Laurie's brother. He'd be Annie's stepbrother. And what are you doing? What are you doing here?
I'm stuck. And I just had a list of great shots. We had Laurie puts the sign out at the Myers house and walks away. And I just love that moment where Michael steps into the camera.
And you love real estate.
I do, you know, that's my two passions right here on this podcast is horror and real estate. Yeah, can you imagine just the showing? You're like, let's do a walkthrough. Oh, never mind the dead dog. He must have gotten hungry.
He must have gotten hungry. Everything that Loomis says is something a regular person would say, but screamed at you.
Yeah, Carpenter was like, he's like, how do you want me to deliver this? And Carpenter was like, 10. Give me a 10.
He's like, I'm just ordering lunch. He's like, give me a fillet of fish. You're like, what?
He's a method actor. That's just old Donald Pleasance. Behind the bush, there's so many iconic shots of like Michael hiding behind the bush, in the sheets, across the street staring at Lori. And I love the dialogue of the teacher talking about I'm trying to think of it was like his action. It was like he was destined to own his fate. Like it's like that. I don't know if Carpenter intended to be that way, but it's like Lori looks out the window and it's like they are destined to have this back and forth tango for however many movies, you know.
One, and they only made one movie, and it was this one. No sequels. But yeah, and it does definitely foreshadow as the series goes on. Yeah, and we got the mask illumination scene when Lori finds the bodies, and then your eyes kind of adjust, and like the mask kind of just it slowly comes into focus. And the idea behind that was John Carpenter saying you wanted to see like your eyes were focusing. So if you're like, is there something back there? It's like, oh no, he's behind you. Yeah, again, it's like just creeping, straight creeping. And one of the most chilling ones is when he gets the hanger in the eye and then I think is stabbed. So then he sits up, he does the Undertaker thing, which I'm calling it the Undertaker thing because you see Undertaker do it way more than Michael Myers. But it was stolen from Michael. But then like I always found it weird, like he stands up, but like he stands up in a way where his head is the last thing to come up. Like it's very bizarre. And I've said it before when talking about this movie, but it's a very DDP yoga pose of he's like your head is the last thing that comes up. It's such an unnatural thing to do. Like next time you get up off the floor from a stupor or whatever, like your head is already up when you stand up, but to have your head be the last thing that comes up is such an unnatural thing. And he does go ahead. He goes from touchdown to ignition back into diamond cutter. Yeah, like and then like a staggered walk like after over to Lord. Like it's such, some of the movements are so natural, and then some of them are like that's not a human thing to do, you know. I really was hoping that I really wish we could call it Shawn Michaelsing, where instead of sitting up, he just kips up and like gets fired up. He gets the crowd into it. He points at her like Hulk Hogan, like you. He does the finger wag, brother. And then he drops the leg on everybody. Do we I don't know how much more we need to say about this movie. I've gone through a bunch of my notes. Do you have anything else? I think overall 3 out of 10. I think 3. Yep. Unfortunately, the score is 10 out of 10. The rest of the movie, not so much. No, it's a classic. It is. I mean, they're still making them. We got we have the last one coming out this October, which they will never make another one. Never again. It'll be it. Going with the trend of there's the final chapter, or it has the definitive the final Friday, or the word ends in it, you know, it's going to be the last one. I think they're going, they're going to leave it open-ended. They're going to make it definitive enough for it to be like Halloween Ends. They're going to leave that bitch open for another something. And the thing is, I don't mind it. I want more. Like, and this is such like a franchise that is such a favorite to me that I don't care. And if anybody's like, they just need to end it, I'd be like, I could see your point, but to me, I just want more to it. You know, I think there is something about the longevity of the Halloween series that people are willing to go out to see more Halloween. It's just become so synonymous with the holiday, with the October season. And if you put Halloween in it, we'll go see it. You've had reboots, you've had remakes, you've had reimaginings, all these things.
There's like 4 different ways you could watch this franchise.
And you don't get that with like Friday the 13th. It's been over a decade since we've had one of those. I know there's been a lot of legal stuff and litigation that we might get into on a later episode, but there's not a lot of like Nightmare on Elm Street movies. They're not still making those. There's just something about Halloween, and I think it has to do with the star power of Jamie Lee Curtis. I think that definitely helps. You have a bankable star, but that you're willing to go back and go on this journey with them again. And like you said, there's so many timelines. Like, do you want a timeline where they are brother and sister? We got these 5 movies. Do you want this weird one where Busta Rhymes is a producer,
does kung fu with Tyra Banks,
does kung fu? And Halloween was really the first franchise I feel that really started forgetting other movies in the series, where they're like, oh, Halloween H2O comes out, they're like, well, forget the other 3 that just came out. We're only gonna do 1 and 2, baby. That's all we need. So just I think once Halloween ends happen, I think you could do an entire another timeline where he doesn't learn to drive and he has to walk all the way from Haddonfield.
I'm waiting for the Uber.
I'm waiting for the bus.
No, just right up next to these babysitters. Just pull up. Trust me.
I don't feel like it's safe here. I don't feel like it's safe. Do you want a 5-star or not? Do you want 5 stars? Let me out.
Yeah, I think such a big part of it was Loomis. I can tell you that I prefer Loomis over Laurie in the movies. Like, I find Loomis to be more interesting, and I don't hate the Laurie ones, but if I had a choice, I would choose Loomis over Laurie.
Okay. That is a bold statement.
Yeah, and I stand by it.
Okay.
But I think a big part of the franchise is just the shape, as Michael Myers is called, is it could be anybody. And there is a reason that he's killing, and some of them is their brother and sister. But then again, why is the kid trying to kill us? There's a big part of this franchise is just, you ask why, or why is this being done? And the answer is just because. And that's what's intriguing about it, Well,
they try to answer it sometimes, and you're like,
I know.
Oh, but like, it's a curse of thorn, and you're like, no, not like this.
Yeah,
not
you're like, no. Yeah.
No, I don't need my triangles on my wrist. Like, let's not, like, what? Sam Hain? You mean Samhain? Sam Hain.
But yeah, man, I just one of my favorite movies, and I
never regret watching Halloween. I've seen it dozens of times, and if it's on, I'll put it on the background, play on my phone, and I never feel like I regret watching Halloween.
It's a bizarre thing of like when people watch serial killer stuff to unwind. Like, like horror fans are so weird. Like, what's your comfort movie? And you just be like, oh yeah, Halloween.
I just really, if I've had a long day, I just gotta watch him choke this German Shepherd.
And we've also talked about this on the Field Trip podcast as well, but this was on a list of like, people would say this is one of the scariest movies. Do you agree with that, Gavin?
For the time, I think so. I think if you give somebody who has never seen horror this movie, they're gonna be scared. I think that a little bit of like all the memes and Michael Myers being such a cultural icon has kind of taken away from that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think as a whole, there are still scary moments. It's still creepy to be stalked.
Yeah.
I think that, just ask any woman who exists.
They're making it up. No, I'm just joking.
Believe them, Brent.
Yeah, but it's I do, and I think a common complaint that I've seen on Halloween groups on Facebook or whatever is like, oh, they're like, this is so slow. And I would say, for compared to now, yeah, it's definitely so. There's a lot of in this movie where not a lot happens. But I we'll talk about a movie that we're about to record, but I'm like, this is a slow movie, and we'll talk about it next week, next episode. But I still find it one of the scariest movies. Clearly, I have nightmares about it.
And snakes.
And snakes. And I didn't ask you before the episode, but if you like Halloween, what other movies do you think people would like? And I'll tell you first, so you have a time to think. But I would recommend the movie It Follows.
Mhm.
I think they're clear. Like you could watch that movie and be like, it's not definitely not stealing, not maybe paying homage, but like definitely same vibes. Great movie. It Follows. I think The Strangers is a great movie. Strangers Pray at Night as well. What else do you think? If you like Halloween, what else will people like?
The Strangers came to mind first because
Mhm.
that's a very slow burn kind of home invasion movie. I think
I would also say Hush.
Hush is really good. Hush is a good one.
Yeah.
I really like all the stuff that he makes. Mike Flannery, I think.
Mike Flanagan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I do
Hush
all
is a home invasion type movie as well. So
yeah, I think anything early Wes Craven is very upsetting. Like Last House on the Left is pretty creepy.
I haven't seen that because I just have read things about it, and
it's upsetting.
Like,
it's upsetting. It's like Stranger Danger type stuff, home invasion type stuff in that as well. Yeah, pretty much. I think Strangers. You can kind of go into some of the slasher movies. I think also maybe a little Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but not a lot. Just because it's teenagers being stalked by a family.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, and that we never really touched on the significance of Halloween spun off so many, like Friday the 13th, they will say we're ripping off Halloween.
Yeah.
And like I would say, you know, it's different, but it's a similar concept. So I would recommend some of the Friday movies.
And Psycho. I think Psycho's a good recommendation as well.
Yeah.
Because I gotta be artsy. Be like, have you heard of this little director named Alfred Hitchcock? I hear that he's done some cool stuff.
And what I like to do is turn on the Vince Vaughn version, but turn my TV to black and white, so it's classy. Any other final thoughts, Gavin?
Great movie. It's a classic. We as horror fans owe so much to John Carpenter going, what if we made this guy stock babysitters?
That's true. So thanks for listening to the first episode of They're Coming to Get You. And well, I'm looking forward to recording the season with you, Gavin. And we have a lot of movies that you know and will love coming up this season. So I can't wait to get into those as well.
Absolutely. Until next time.
They're coming to get you. They're coming for you, Barbara.
They're coming to get you.